Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Gridiron Lion Show. It is time for the championship round, the NFC and AFC championship games. This weekend, we're down to the final four teams. I am Casey Kreider, joined as always by my colleague, Zach Rhoda. Zach, how are we doing? It's a beautiful Friday afternoon in State College, and we're almost ready for some football.
I was just about to say, Casey, happy Friday. Great way to kick off this weekend doing this podcast with you. Survived my tummy ache approximately 6 minutes ago, so I'm feeling fantastic. I'm a true survivor.
So is this the Michael Jordan flu game right here for you?
It was a no, it was what I'm saying is it was about to be, but it just passed right before recording, luckily. So sadly, no, but I was preparing for just that.
Let's go. All right. Perfect. That means you are ready to talk about the games that we saw last weekend. Huge win by the Eagles. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But first, let's start with the first game of the weekend, Chiefs Jaguars. Let's get right into it. First game of divisional round weekend. Patrick Mahomes gets hurt in the first quarter, hurts his ankle. I think it was a high ankle sprain is what they rumored or said it might have been. But either way, he was able to come back in the game. Chad Henne led that 98-yard touchdown drive while he was out. And then Mahomes came back in the game. It was a close game. I mean, really all the way through. The Jaguars had their opportunity to win it, but a crucial fumble by Jamal Agnew late while they were trying to go in for a touchdown pretty much sealed the game, and Kansas City moves on to their fifth AFC championship game in a row. Every year that Mahomes has been a starter, he has led them to at least the AFC championship game. That is nuts. But either way, Zach, what were your thoughts on that game and just the continued greatness of Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes together?
2 words, Henny God. When that man came onto the field, there was zero doubt in my mind that he was going to do what he needed to do, and he did just that. No, but with all jokes aside, when Patrick Mahomes got injured and they were showing it on the replay, that was horrifying. I
Yeah.
thought for sure it was an ACL. The way that is, like, I thought it was his knee with where his leg bent. And then you could tell he was refusing to go to the locker room because I was thinking that once he got further evaluated, they would say, "Oh, there's no way you can go back in that game." So he was going to try and at least finish the game. But then eventually, and you could tell he's pissed off too. Eventually, he goes to the locker room, comes back, still has his pads on, goes back out in the game, is playing, and he's moving just fine then. Because I remember even when he tried finishing out that drive, it was tough to watch. The man was limping. He could barely
He
even
looked
hand
bad.
the ball off. It looked horrible. But I mean, that man, if that game there didn't show you how passionate that man is and how much he wants to win, there's a reason this is another trip to the AFC Championship under Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and all of them.
Yeah,
They're
and I mean,
good.
no, they are. And I mean, it's the way that they've found ways to win. Obviously, even without Tyreek Hill, I feel like we've talked about that most of the year. But I mean, Travis Kelce had 10 catches in the first half, I think. Like, that's just stupid. Like, he's just always open, it seems like, for that offense. And then, I mean, it's always like the most random guys. Like, Marquez Valdez-Scantling caught the last touchdown for the Chiefs. Like, it's like always the guys you least expect, it seems like, that like come up big in those big moments for the Chiefs. But that's just how they do it with Andy Reid.
They do a great job of just getting all those different dudes involved, especially with the loss of Tyreek Hill this past offseason. You knew they're going to have to do something. Either someone was going to have to step up or everyone collectively was going to have to contribute. They've been doing just that. And Travis Kelce, I mean, he goes out there, still does his thing. And I'll tell you what, when Mahomes went down, the first thought that went through my mind about how the team would approach that was, oh, they're just going to feed Travis Kelce. He's probably going to see double the amount of targets for the rest of this game. And then Mahomes did come back into the game. But yeah.
It's pretty impressive, I will say. And it'll be interesting now to see like how significant the injury was for Mahomes, and we'll talk about that when we preview the championship game. But like, how much of an impact will that have on him? Because it did certainly hinder him at the end of that Jaguars game. But you figure, after having a week to recover, hopefully at least he's going to be much closer to 100% and ready to try and finally take down the Cincinnati Bengals. But let's get to the second game of Saturday, one that I know Zach is very excited to talk about. So I'm just going to let you take the floor on this one. I saw the stat, or I saw this weird fact yesterday, I think, that January 21st is just 38-7 day for the Eagles, because that was the same date that they beat the Vikings 38-7 in the NFC Championship game, the year they won the Super Bowl. They beat the Giants 38-7 last weekend on January 21st. So, Zach, just an all-around dominating performance. I'm going to let you take the floor. What was your reaction to that?
They're back. The Eagles are back. And I saw with Avonte Maddox finally recovering from his injury, our entire roster is healthy. Going into the NFC Championship, that is huge. And I'll tell you what, I even was starting to think after the Giants game against the Vikings that they'd give us a tough game. Dude, it was never close. Even for our third time meeting each other, you could tell that the Eagles were prepared. Jalen Hurts came out firing on all cylinders. The defense was shutting down Saquon, getting after Daniel Jones. It was just a dominant performance on all sides of the ball. It was a thing of beauty to watch.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the box score, Jalen Hurts, that one, obviously, the big play that he made early in the game was that big throw down the field to Devontae Smith that set up their first touchdown. But it was really the ground game for the Eagles. Kenneth Gainwell had a 100-yard game on the ground. He had 12 for 112 and a touchdown. Miles Sanders had 90 rushing yards. Hurts had 34 and a touchdown. And the giant killer Boston Scott found the end zone once again, as he always does against the Giants. It was just as you said, it was a dominating performance. The Giants, I really thought the Giants would give them more of a fight, but it just didn't seem like they were up to task with Philly's defense. Daniel Jones never got on track. The run game never really got going, and they had to abandon it pretty early in the game because they were down by so much. So, they got the Giants out of doing what they're most comfortable doing most of the time. And yeah, it was just all around a dominant performance. And I liked what you said in the group chat, Zach, when if Boston Scott played the Giants every year, he'd be a top 10 running back.
That's just so true.
How does he always?
The Giants gotta hate that man. They're definitely thinking, okay, they have Miles Sanders and Gainwell, who they just drafted recently, but this dude, every time that we play you guys, this dude just ends up having one of the best games of the season, for him at least. Or he'll go games where he doesn't even see the ball, but every single time we play the Giants, it's like they go out of their way to implement him into the game plan just for the meme, because he is the giant killer.
He had 6 carries for 32 yards and a touchdown. So it wasn't like it wasn't like it was just like 1 or 2 carries or like a kick return or something like that. Like they actually did get him the ball, and that was like pretty early in the game, I remember. So I think I don't know. Sirianni seems like the type of guy that would kind of play into those memes a little bit. So maybe he did.
And also, when the final score is 38-7, everyone's getting the ball. So
that's true. Yeah. I think most of Kenneth Gainwell's 112 yards came in garbage time, but even the Giants, I remember that. Even when the Eagles put their backups in, the Giants still couldn't stop him. He had that long touchdown at the end of the game. They just couldn't do anything to keep the Eagles off the field. But I will ask you this later when we talk about the NFC Championship game. But I wonder if that rushing attack makes you a little more or less confident about your matchup with the Niners, but we'll get to that later. Let's get to our other games. We'll We'll get to the other game in the AFC first. Bills and Bengals in snowy Buffalo, New York. And this was a game that, surprisingly for me anyway, never was close. I mean, we were kind of worried going in. I know you and Jack, obviously, too, were worried about the Bengals and their offensive line not being able to hold up. But that game really never was close between them and the Bills. They got out to an early lead, and Buffalo just never had an answer for what Cincinnati was doing on defense. Joe Burrow was pretty much carving them up, even in the snow. Joe Mixon had 100 yards on the ground. I mean, it was just all around a dominating performance by the Cincinnati Bengals. I thought they'd win. Obviously, I had them picked to win, but I didn't think it was going to be the dominant performance that it ended up being.
When that Bengals offense is clicking, it's damn near impossible to stop. With how many playmakers they have on that offense and how many different ways they can hurt you. And also a good point is when they went to the Super Bowl, it's not like their offensive line was extremely dominant either. And the offensive line is still holding together, like holding its own. But I mean, that with Joe Burrow getting the ball to Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, and even Hayden Hurst has been a great addition for them. And then Joe Mixon in the backfield who can make something out of nothing. That's a lot of firepower on offense.
Yeah, that's going to be tough for any team to deal with, I feel like. And I mean, yeah, we were talking a little bit before we started recording, Zach. The absence of Von Miller and the role that played, I feel like you do kind of have to wonder, like, if they had Von Miller, how much more pressure would he have put on that Bengals offensive line, and how much maybe would that have changed the outcome of the game? Because I mean, really for the Bills as a whole, I mean, it wasn't just the Von Miller injury, but I mean, they kind of collapsed down the stretch. I don't know if we necessarily talk about it a lot, but the fact that they just were able to squeeze past the Dolphins in the wild card round, and some of the games that they were, close in or lost down the stretch. I mean, for a team that week 7, everyone had winning the Super Bowl, including myself, they did not look like it the second half of the year. And you got to wonder, like, how much of an impact really was Brian Daboll leaving Josh Allen? Because it certainly looked like as the year went on, teams kind of started to figure him out a little bit more, and the Bills didn't have an answer.
I think it was a massive loss for them. With the team that they have and McDermott's still there, they're still going to be a good team. But there are so many bumps along the road and hiccups here and there where you could tell that the team just, in my opinion, wasn't as dominant as they were the year before. And so many people going into the year had them as Super Bowl favorites and Josh Allen MVP. And now that their season's officially over, I think it's safe to say that, at least to me, from how I saw it, granted, I didn't watch every single Bills game, but from what I saw from them this season, I think they were not as good as the previous year, at least on offense. And then on defense, I'm sure they're doing just fine when they had Von Miller, and losing him, that's a major loss that you don't really anticipate during the season. But who knows? Maybe during that Bengals game, if they have Von Miller, maybe a few more plays that could, if he makes a difference. But also one more point about the Bengals that I wanted to make about that offensive line. Realistically, with all those playmakers you have, all you need is 3 to 5 seconds, and then someone's going to get open.
Yeah.
Now, if you add someone like Von Miller into the mix, will that shorten that time window? Like more plays than not, maybe, but it's kind of hard to tell. That's all hypothetical.
Yeah, no, I think that was something like early on in the game. Like you could tell Burrow was getting the ball out a little quicker than before usually. And it actually seemed to work better for their offense. I mean, Jamar Chase got involved early on. He had, I think, 2 touchdowns, maybe only one. Okay, only one. He had one that was overturned, I remember. But yeah, it's interesting for the Bills. I mean, I know they were the team that I thought was going to win the Super Bowl preseason. That was my pick. I think it was Bills Rams, which, God, that didn't age well. I also had the Broncos
in
the
AFC
Championship game, but we don't have to talk about that. But yeah, I think, it was interesting. I mean, Josh Allen really looked like he kind of regressed, like, as the season went on. And I feel like you think about it, the Bills, this is their 4th year, I think, in the playoffs. now with Josh Allen. And the first year was not his rookie year, but I think his second year was the year they lost to the Texans in the wild card round, close in overtime. The year after, they lost to the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. Then obviously the Chiefs the year after in the divisional round. But this year especially, it looked like, down the stretch, like Josh Allen and the Bills have struggled to kind of close out these games. And like obviously last year, like that game was so back and forth. Like I don't necessarily blame that on Josh Allen, but sooner or later, like fans in Buffalo, we know how loyal they are to their team. Like they're gonna get a little frustrated with always, getting to this point, getting to the divisional round, even getting to the championship game and not being able to get over that hump and get to the Super Bowl. And like you saw that frustration even from like Stephon Diggs on the sideline, like during the game, like he was frustrated because he's been a part of this for 3 years, and all 3 years now their seasons ended in pretty disappointing fashion.
Oh yeah, Diggs was not having it. Did you hear about how apparently I think it was like Duke Johnson approached him after the game and brought him into the locker room, and then he stormed out then afterwards, and then he doubled down on Twitter and was just going off. Like you can tell that man's pissed. But did you see also all the memes where it's him standing there after the Chiefs game watching the celebration, and everyone's like, man's been standing here for 3 years. There's something like that. It was funny.
Yeah.
But you got a feel for the man. I mean, similar to Mahomes, it's you can see the passion. The man just wants to simply win.
Yeah.
And I mean, in a loss like that, it's never easy. It's tough.
And in his defense, I mean, he only had 4 catches. He had 4 catches for 35 yards in the game. So he wasn't, I mean, the whole passing game never really got going, but he wasn't really given a lot of opportunities, which is why I think he was so upset. And, now everyone in the offseason is going to be like, oh, are Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs going to be all right? Like, I think they'll be okay, but that's something definitely to keep an eye on.
And also something really big to bring up. If he wasn't already ticked off enough, the fact that he's matching up against Eli Apple, who you already know is talking as much shit as he possibly can.
Dude.
I bet it's very easy to just get pissed off. If your emotions are already at an all-time high, playing in a playoff game, going against Eli Apple, that's one way to just get pissed off, especially if you're held to 35 yards.
I hate Eli Apple, bro. I hate that man so much. That dude is like, in my opinion, he's like single-handedly the reason that the Bengals lost the Super Bowl last year, because he just couldn't cover Cooper Kupp on that last drive. And yet he still has the audacity to talk like after the game about everything that him locking down Stephon Diggs and talking all this crap. Like, bro, you are literally not that good at your job. You have no room to say anything.
He's such a menace, dude. I saw this one comparison where it's him and Patrick Beverly. But it's like, I feel like Beverly has his moments, but if it just comes to like being an in-game menace, oh my God. Like, they're relentless, dude.
But Pat Bev is actually like good at what he does. I feel
he's a good defender.
Like, Eli sucks. Like,
yeah,
I don't know, man. I it's whatever. Eli,
I love it though.
I'm rooting for the Bengals. I'm rooting for the Bengals, but Eli Apple does make it hard sometimes. That's all I got to say on that. All right. So with that being said, we'll talk more about the Bengals. Obviously, Bengals Chiefs is going to be the AFC Championship game. But Zach, man, I kind of wish D-Mel was here for this, because last week I remember he sent you the text. He guaranteed a Cowboys victory over the San Francisco 49ers. And honestly, for a lot of that game, it looked like it was possible. It was very close. Defense was the name of the game. But ultimately, the Niners with Brock Purdy end up making a couple plays down the stretch to get the win. And Dak Prescott did throw 2 pretty big interceptions to help kind of cost the Cowboys the game. And the Niners move on, and the Cowboys, once again, in hilarious fashion, are out of the playoffs. That last, I will never get over that last play. That was just stupid, but I'll let you say your piece here, Zach.
I gotta say, Also, going all the way back to what you brought up about that D-mail text. No, dude, D-mail pulled a D-mail. He sent that, and then he wouldn't double down on it, and off air was saying, "Oh no, we're gonna lose." But he did that way. No matter what happened, he couldn't be wrong, and I couldn't give him shit for it. That's what he always does. You ask anyone who knows D-mail and talks football with D-mail, he always does that. He'll be like, "Oh, we're gonna lose." But if we win, I wouldn't be surprised. And I mean, I do the same exact thing with the Eagles too. But like, no, he sent that text, but it was all for the ratings, dude.
That's fair.
It
That's
was
fair.
all for the show. Literally, just
Skip Bayless.
literally, basically, yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, what were your thoughts on the game as a whole? Because I mean, Brock Purdy didn't look very good, I thought, but he did make a couple big plays when they needed him. And obviously, I mean, yeah, the one interception that sticks out for me was that one as the Cowboys were driving to try and score before the half and take the lead, and he throws that pick to, I forget who it was to, but he was targeting CD Lamb and it got picked off, and then the Niners I think got a field goal out of that right before halftime. Like that, when you think about it, I mean, that was really the sequence of plays that changed the game.
The three biggest problems were problems that they were facing as of late in the season. It all just came to bite them in the ass. One was the Dak turnovers. Two was the Maher misses, and then three was McCarthy's coaching and just coaching in general.
Yeah.
All three of them were extremely pivotal in them just losing. You're not gonna, with all three of those coming at the worst possible time, you're not gonna beat the 49ers, who going into that game are on an 11-game win streak. And watching them lose was the most satisfying thing ever. And for all I know, we could very well lose to that very same team, which is why I kind of restrained myself in talking too much shit. But I did have to remind D-Mel how wonderful it was getting to watch Dak just throw a beautiful amount of turnovers.
Yeah, and then it was, well, okay, I'll talk about Dak in a second. I want to get your reaction to that last play with Ezekiel Elliott just getting pancaked at center, the just epic failure that play was, because that has the entire NFL world talking about, like, what was Mike McCarthy thinking? What was Kellen Moore thinking? Like, what were they doing?
They weren't thinking anything clever, that's for damn sure. I just remember when the announcer said, "All right, we have Zeke lined up at center here." Naturally, that's right where my focus is going, because I'm like, all right, I want to see this. This is literally like an Oklahoma drill going on right now. Zeke as the blocker, and then I don't even know who the defender was, but it didn't matter, dude. Zeke literally just got destroyed, and then Dak had to get the ball out quick, and then I don't even know who he threw it to. Probably like 10, 12-yard pass. Doesn't even get a chance to lateral the ball, just gets tackled and slammed right to the ground. Game over. Most beautiful way to watch Cowboys season come to an end. Very well might be, or there's a strong possibility that that may have been Zeke's final play as a Dallas Cowboy, and I'm all for it. It's beautiful, just getting slammed to the ground. He's saying he'll take a pay cut, but honestly, I don't even know if the team would. I don't even know what they're thinking. Only Jerry Jones, he might do that just
The
because.
thing is, now that Tony Pollard got hurt, because he had that he broke his leg in that game in the third quarter, and so they didn't have him, obviously the rest of the way. Like, that could also impact maybe what they decide to do with Zeke, because now Tony Pollard's coming off a big injury, and maybe they were planning on getting rid of Zeke, and now because Tony Pollard got hurt, they might have to bring him back. But we'll see what they do. I want to get your did D-Mel have any reaction to that specific play? Because I would love, I just want to know what was going through his mind when that happened.
I can look. I think I said, hold on.
Either
I
way,
think
it was.
so. I know he's really happy that Dan Quinn's staying, which makes sense.
That's true. Yeah, Dan Quinn did announce he was staying despite interviewing for some head coaching jobs. He will be back. Also, how about my man Frank Reich getting the Carolina Panthers job? By the way, good for him.
Oh yeah, I think that's huge.
Yeah, that's they just need to get a quarterback there. They have some good pieces, but they need to figure out who's actually going to be under center for them, and it probably isn't going to be Sam Darnold. So either way, but
They'll probably draft a quarterback, I'm guessing. Frank Reich will want to go out and get his own. And that's probably why they hired him, because he's a former quarterback, actually, for the Panthers. Fun fact.
yeah, yeah.
So he'll probably want to get his own quarterback to groom. They might hold on to Darnold another year, I'd imagine, and then draft someone like a Will Levis or someone around that range who they can just take their time to groom. And I was looking back, I did not get a reaction from that play specifically from Demo. But I'm sure it was just sort of just him checked out at that point because the game was over.
Yeah. I will say, people now are saying like this week, like obviously people are talking about all the interceptions that Dak threw, and now like there's people saying, "Oh, Brock Purdy is better than Dak." Like I don't think I'd go that far. That's a little bit of an overreaction to me. But like yeah, Dak did struggle like a lot down the stretch, and especially with all the weapons that he had around him. I mean, obviously CeeDee Lamb, probably one of the best receivers in the NFL. Michael Gallup played decent for most of the year. And then you had T.Y. Hilton in there too. Dalton Schultz was really big down the stretch. I mean, they had a lot of guys. And once again, I mean, Dak has, is it one or two playoff wins maybe in his career? Like it's not a lot.
He's tied with Romo, I saw.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think they're both like 1-4, 2-4.
Yeah. Either way, it's
under
not
500.
Yeah. So, well, yeah, I guess, yeah, it would be two because they beat the Rams a couple of years ago, I remember. Or no, they got beat by the Rams. They beat somebody. It was the Seahawks. That's who it was. And then they beat the Bucks last week. So, but either way, I mean, for Dak, I mean, we talk about Dak. We've been talking about the Cowboys forever. And obviously Dak's been there for 6 or 7 years now. And for them to only have 2 playoff wins to show for all that is pretty disappointing. So I don't know. We'll have to see what the Cowboys do going forward. Obviously, they're committed to Dak, but he didn't look great for a lot of the later portion of the season.
If Dak was playing for the Niners at quarterback, they'd be just as good, if not better, and he'd still be playing right now. I wouldn't say like, oh, Brock Purdy's better. No.
I'd agree.
I think the issues with the Cowboys is a lot bigger than just the quarterback situation, or I think it's from the top down.
Yeah. But they're going to bring Mike McCarthy back.
And that's an issue right in itself.
Yeah.
That's the Cowboys right there.
Yeah.
Same thing you saw with Jason Garrett. He's going to be coaching there a few years longer than he realistically should. And then by the time he is fired, they'll just get someone who's extremely similar.
Yeah.
Who lets Jerry Jones seemingly just run the show and make it about Jerry Jones. So
we'll see what happens. But hey, you can if nothing else, Zach, even if you lose this week, you can say you made it one round further than the Cowboys this year. So you'll have that to talk about all off season. And
we made it to the NFC Championship. So
yeah, that's true.
And even if we lose
division,
we won the division. That's one banner. If we win this game this week, that's another banner. Yeah. But we get a third one. Oh, I mean,
we'll see. I don't know.
I don't want to jinx anything.
I think there's a chance. But well, okay, let's just talk about it right now. Then let's get into our NFC Championship game. That's the first game on Sunday, 3:00 on Fox. Niners Eagles at the Link. Zach, this is your team, man. Go ahead. What's how do you see this playing out?
Dude. Okay. So my Super Bowl prediction, after correcting the atrocity of a Rams Broncos prediction for a Super Bowl. Okay, can you imagine if that actually was a game that we all were forced to subject ourselves to? You would literally have to pay me to watch it.
It's called the Christmas Day game, Zach, on Nickelodeon.
Oh my God, I forgot about that game. And didn't the Baker Mayfield drop like 50 on you guys? Oh God. I completely forgot they even played each other this season.
That
But
was
regardless,
the,
that was
that was literally the game that Nathaniel Hackett got fired. It was
damn.
bad.
So that
Either way,
was your Super Bowl technically.
yeah, you could look at it that way. Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
But yeah, either way.
Anyways,
That being said,
point being, after that, my update was Chiefs 49ers. And now, honestly, with how teams are playing, I think the Eagles are gonna win, dude. I honestly like, and like that goes against what I've been saying all season, where I'm always just picking against. I seriously think we're gonna lose just because we're somehow being viewed as underdogs. Everyone's on the 49ers bandwagon now and just like hopping on Brock Purdy saying how he's the next superstar. He's playing great. He's gonna be a good quarterback for them. But like, okay, they're on a 12-game win streak now. It has to get snapped at some point. A rookie quarterback has never won a Super Bowl or even played in one. So if he wins this week, okay, if Brock Purdy wins this week, then I seriously think they're gonna win all. Because then, like, I don't know if anyone's stopping this team.
that's true.
But it's just this is such a hard game for me to predict. I just ultimately think that with our offensive line at full strength and our roster at full strength, the only team that can beat us is ourselves.
Yeah.
Because when this team is
I
clicking on all cylinders, like we saw last week, dude, and the Giants, they're in. I mean, they're a good team, and we made them look terrible. We made them look like the Giants teams of the past that we've been seeing.
yeah.
We made Daniel Jones almost revert back to his old form, shut down Saquon. This team's good. We're carrying that momentum on, and we had a few slip ups at the end of the season. Had the bye week to just clean up our mistakes. Boom, we're right back to where we were. It's looking good. 49ers are probably the hottest team in the NFL right now, but I think when this team in Philly is hot, they're a better team overall. So these two teams going at it is going to make for some great, great football to watch.
No, it will be
But
great. I agree.
yeah,
It's gonna be a fun
uh,
game. I I agree with you. I'm gonna take Philly to win this game. I took them. This is actually my Super Bowl prediction from originally, just like yours, is still alive. I'm gonna stick with the Eagles here. I think I said they'd win it at the beginning. I think they'll win this game. Yeah, actually, I think I had this round right. I had the Niners playing the Eagles, and I had the Bengals playing the Chiefs. So I picked the Eagles to beat the Niners a couple weeks ago, and I'm still gonna pick them. I was a little tempted to go to the Niners after what they did in the wild card round, but honestly, I mean, Brock Purdy did not look great against the Cowboys, and I mean, they didn't need him to do a ton. They can obviously win without him doing a ton, but I think they're going to need him to do more against this Eagles defense that can rush the passer. They lead the league in sacks. It's not even close. They obviously have a good secondary, and Vontae Maddox getting healthy, but they have C.J. Gardner-Johnson and Darius Slay and all those guys in the secondary that can help keep things short up and try to limit all the weapons that Dallas had, or not Dallas, that the Niners have. And I will say the fact this is in Philly, I think does make a huge difference. Either way, I think. I mean, it's a cold weather game, which Brock Purdy did play at Iowa State, so it's not like he's like completely unfamiliar with playing in cold weather, but he doesn't have an overly strong arm, so it's a little harder to throw the ball in cold weather. And I think honestly, it's this game is going to come down to, I think, a battle of the run games. And where I think Philly has the edge is their quarterback is a huge part of their run game. Brock Purdy's mobile, like he can scramble out of the pocket and do stuff like that, but he's not, gonna be torching you on the ground, most likely. So, I think it comes down to which quarterback can make big plays. I think Jalen Hurts, I trust a little more to make big plays in the passing game. And I know he's going to make a big impact in the running game. And if they get Miles Sanders or Kenneth Gainwell or even Boston Scott going, like, I think it's going to be hard to stop that Eagles offense and what they do, even against the best defense in the NFL. So, I mean, it's going to be great because these two teams are so good. They're clearly the best two in the NFC, but I'm going to have to go Philly. I just think their offense is very well suited. They're playing at home. I think they can match up well enough with the Niners. And ultimately, what I really think it comes down to is the Eagles defense and how they match up with the Niners offense. Because even though the Niners offense has a lot of weapons, their weak point, at least we think, now Brock Purdy, if he goes and balls out this week, could prove me wrong, but like he's kind of the weak point. And if they can get after him and put him under pressure and, make it so that he can't just complete the routine throws to Kittle or Debo or Ayuk or McCaffrey, that could be the difference in the game. So I honestly think the Eagles defense might be the biggest X factor in this game. And it's why I think they're going to win. I think Philly is going to go back to the Super Bowl and have an opportunity with Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts to play in Arizona and see if they can't bring another Lombardi home after going the first 50 years of their existence without one.
I'm all for it.
So with that being said, you got the Eagles. We got the Eagles. We'll be watching that closely. One more game we got to get to is the AFC Championship game. Chiefs, Bengals. Zach, I'll let you start with this one. You said you had the Chiefs going to the Super Bowl. Do you still feel that way?
Both these games, dude. Literally, with these four remaining teams, I could see any combination. As long as it makes sense with AFC, NFC, obviously. But I don't know, dude. I think I do. Just because I know Burrow hasn't lost to the Chiefs yet, but you gotta think the streak has to end at some point. And it's just I'm pulling for the Bengals. I'll say this, and then I know we just finished up with talking about the Eagles. I think the Chiefs are gonna win, but I think the Eagles would, if they play the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, I think they'd win. If they played the Bengals, I think they lose. Just because if the Bengals go back to the Super Bowl, they are not losing again. If you go back to the Super Bowl back to back, you can't lose the Super Bowl 2 years in a row. If they make it all the way back there, they're clearly on a mission and they're not going home without finishing that job. But I don't even think they're going to get there, sadly. I think the Chiefs are going to just handle business this week. I think it'll be a shootout. I think Mahomes is going to literally pour his heart out and give it everything he has. As we saw last game, I think Kelsey's going to have a huge game. Burrow's not going to go down, and that whole offense isn't going to go down without a fight. I think this is a game where both teams put up at least 30, and the Chiefs come out on top. I think this could be similar to what we saw from Bills Chiefs a few seasons back.
Yeah. All right. So, in the interest of full disclosure, my pre-playoff Super Bowl pick was the Bengals, which means I had them winning this game. I had them playing in Arrowhead, and I had them beating the Chiefs for a fourth straight time. I am going to stick by my guns. I will pick the Bengals to win this game. This game, though, I feel like the Niners-Eagles is a toss-up to an extent, but I kind of feel kind of confident in my reasoning the Eagles could win. Honestly, this game I think is a 50-50 toss-up. I could see either team winning this game. I do think the injury to Patrick Mahomes, while he'll be probably around 90% healthy, I do think that will make an impact because his ability to kind of move around in the pocket, scramble, I'm sure he'll still try to in crucial moments, but he's not going to be as lethal probably running the ball or scrambling as he usually is. And that's a big part of what the Chiefs do, especially in the playoffs. We've seen it in the past. It's really, really hard for a team like the Chiefs. I mean, the last three times the Chiefs and Bengals have played, the Bengals have won all three games. It's really hard to beat a good team 4 times in a row. Like that just doesn't usually happen, especially with that fourth game being in Arrowhead. But this Bengals team, I mean, you said it, Zach, when you were talking earlier, even with the banged up offensive line, they've got the weapons, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. Now you throw Hayden Hurst in the mix as tight end. Mixon and Pirine coming out of the backfield. I mean, there's so many ways this offense can hit you. And we don't talk enough about this Bengals defense. They don't have a lot of big name guys on it, but, whether it's Jesse Bates or Trey Hendrickson or Sam Hubbard, against the Ravens, like they've got a lot of guys, not Eli Apple, but a lot of other guys that can make big plays in big moments. And that, I think, could be the difference. I think if they can get pressure on Mahomes, make him uncomfortable in the pocket, obviously take away the fact that he probably won't be able to scramble as well, I think it adds up well for the Bengals to win again and beat the Chiefs one more time. Would I be surprised if the Chiefs won? Absolutely not. I think it's definitely possible, especially considering the fact that, you can't imagine that Mahomes and the Chiefs are going to lose to the Bengals forever. I mean, eventually they're going to find a way, but, the Bengals have been Mahomes and Andy Reid's kryptonite over the past 2 years. And I just think we couple Mahomes' injury, even though he'll probably be close to 100%, you couple that with that Bengals defense that's always seems to rise to the occasion in the playoffs. I think Cincinnati is going to find a way to get the job done. They're going to get back to the Super Bowl, and they will have a date with Philly in Arizona in 2 weeks. That is my prediction. I'm sticking to it. We'll have to see. It's going to be a great game. I think I agree with you. I think it's going to be a shootout. I think it's going to be both teams in the 30s. I'd be very surprised if it ends up being a blowout. If it does end up being a blowout, I would expect the Bengals to be on the winning end of it, because that probably means Mahomes wasn't very healthy. But I think it's going to be a great. I mean, both these games really, I think, are going to be great games and very, very close games amongst teams that are very evenly constructed on the NFC and the AFC side.
I think this game, what we are seeing is the two best quarterbacks in the NFL right now going head to head.
I agree.
I think this is going to be the next Brady Manning caliber of game. Like, it's that special. And with that being said, neither of these quarterbacks is going to let their team get blown out. Even if they're down big, they're going to crawl back into and at least make it a game in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I would agree.
And also, you made a good point as well about the Bengals defense being extremely underrated. I would agree with that.
Yeah, they've got a lot of great guys.
And also, one more thing too, is this game, like you said, I could definitely see it going either way. Just like the Eagles Niners, like my Super Bowl prediction, you're sticking to yours. I have Chiefs Niners, and I had that most of this regular season as well. And I'm switching it just because I can't pick against the Eagles if it's the NFC Championship.
Yeah, that's fair.
But like at the same time, I just really have this bad feeling. I can just see, I have like this mental image of just like the Eagles players just sadly walking in the locker room or down the tunnel to the locker room all pissed off, and then just like social media just lighting up my feed about Brock Purdy going to the Super Bowl and he being him, and just that's like my nightmare situation. I can so see that happening. But if I'm just sticking to logic here, I think we'll get the job done. But if it's Chiefs Niners, I called it. So
fair. Well, Bengals.
So I'm pulling Eagles. A demo. I'm literally pulling a demo right now.
You are.
Either way, I was right.
Yeah, Bengals Eagles would be the dream Super Bowl, I think, for both of us, though. But we'll see if it happens.
And I said this as well. Of all teams, if we play the Bengals, I would literally, if you were to ask me one team I would want to play in the Super Bowl, it would be the Bengals. Just because, at least with this current Bengals team that they've had, they're probably my second favorite team in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree.
And then I root for them because of Jack, and then also they've never won a Super Bowl as well. So naturally, I mean, that's something to pull for as well. And I wanted to see them win last year, and they fell short. So I feel for them. If we lose, I'm gonna be pissed and sad, obviously. I mean, who wouldn't watch your team lose? But then I'd be able to kind of like take away some positives from it with that as well. If we played the Chiefs and lost, dude, I would just be really pissed off and annoyed. But we'll worry about that once we get there. We'll see how this weekend goes.
Well, it's going to be fun to watch. Either way, we will enjoy it along with you, and we'll be back next week to break down. Well, actually, I don't know if we'll do it next week or before the Super Bowl week. Either way, we'll be back at some point to break down the championship games and preview Super Bowl 57 in Glendale, Arizona. Who's going to be playing there? We will see. But until then, for Zach Rhoda, I am Casey Kreider, our producer Jace Gibbons, with us today in spirit. We will talk to you next time on the Gridiron Line. Enjoy the championship games this weekend. We're almost to the Super Bowl, guys, and we will talk to you next time on